I'm a guy that has a ton of samplers. I fix them, collect them, stuff like this, older ones. So I figured make a video after making all these videos about if you should buy certain things or if they're worth it or if they're repairable or whatever, and tell you what I think the best one is for under $500, even less money if you're hunting used. So stay tuned. Everybody knows about this sampler. This is the Roland SP-404 MK2. Gotta say that within the past few years, this is probably my favorite sub $500 sampler that's been released. The functionality is incredible for what you get. The app is super useful. I've used it a lot trying to get samples in and out of Ableton. All the functionality is super easy to use. It has a step sequencer. If you like to do that, USB-C connectivity, you can sample in from the USB-C, you can push audio out through it. I do like how they added 1/4 inch ins and outs. The old 404s and a lot of the subsequent machines in that family beforehand were all RCA, which is fine, but I prefer the 1/4 inch cables. They just seem sturdier to me. The inclusion of both sizes of headphone port on the front is incredibly smart in case you're not around anything with a 1/4 inch adapter. On the right side, they also have gain and a mic and guitar input, so I like the separate controls that are there for controlling volume. On the back, there's your typical line in and line out 1/4 inch like I mentioned before. You have a USB-C connection, power on and off switch, DC in. It comes with an adapter, which is great. MIDI in and out are present in the form of mini jacks. They're kind of like breakout jacks. I like how the design here has been updated just enough, modernized. Like I said before, the 1/4 inch input and output, I've had no issues with any of this. I've had this machine since the week it came out. I pre-ordered it. I've had no problems with any of it, no crackling. You can be pretty rough on these ports, although I wouldn't really recommend it. I have not used the MIDI at all. I've used the USB-C for input and output. I don't use MIDI much with machines like this, but I believe it can travel on the USB-C as well. I think really where some of this stuff starts to stand out is my two use cases for this machine. I mainly use it to make beats with like the resample method. So I like to record things, change the pitch, get them sounding how I want to, and then resampling that pad. I really enjoy using the SP-404 MK2 as like a catcher's mitt for other machines as well. So like particularly stuff like older MPCs where I'm getting like a rudimentary mix inside that machine, then I want to make a loopable piece for like a show or something like that. Because at the end of the day, I used to play beat sets with Ableton and I'm just not trying to carry a laptop, so I am strictly SP-404. On that note, way easier to carry this to a show than like a bunch of computers and cables and an Ableton controller, so it's always been really great in that respect. There's a lot of internal changes and some changes to design with this model over the old ones. I really like how they added 16 pads. There's something that infuriates me deeply when people release a pad drum sampler and it's got like 12 pads. I think it drives me nuts because a lot of people, when they learn to sample or chop records, they're usually chopping like a 4-bar loop into 16 chops, and it's like, would it really have cost the R&D department that much money to add 4 extra buttons for us to even up those slices? The effects have been updated and there's a lot of great new stuff in there. I really like the inclusion of different eras of SP modeled compressors and vinyl sims and all that. The footprint of the machine is perfect. It's easy to fit a bunch of these on the table. If you watch some of our older videos, you notice there's like 3 or 4 people playing beats. Doesn't take up a lot of room, and I know that's kind of like a stupid thing to think about until you have a bunch of people at a show or in a room or trying to film something. I look at this machine a lot like a playground. I think it's one of the simplest but also complex, easiest samplers. It's very tactile. Sampling stuff is instantaneous. It's like 2 button clicks. The sample editing kind of stands out here, where on the old machines, you relied a lot on sound, and I get a lot of people like to work like that. But the addition of endpoint and start point trim, and then there's an envelope for each sample. They have a scale mode in here. You can play one shots in a scale like a piano. It's evolved so much from the original idea. You also really have to hand it to Roland. This thing has been out for a few years. They're still updating it, and they don't show any signs of slowing down. I mean, they just added side chaining, like official side chaining in the firmware, and it works great. Now, again, this part might be a little bit more of an opinion, but the MPC sample just came out. Teenage Engineering made their small format sampler. I don't expect to see very many updates for the MPC sample. I honestly think Akai just made that to make money. There's literally one in this video. I like it for what it is. I consider it kind of like a step below the SP-404 MK2, partially because you're kind of locked to the sequencer. You can't really play drums and resample them on feeling like you can with the SP-404. So that's where it gets marks off. And when you're talking about Teenage Engineering, anytime they want to introduce a new feature, they don't really release a firmware upgrade, they just release a whole new machine. So we've got the EP133, and then there's a medieval version, and then there's a reggae version, and who knows what they're going to cook up next. But I do recognize that Teenage Engineering is a design company more so than it is an actual like music audio company. So, you know, I have 2 of them. I think they're cool. Does it even stack up to what the SP-404 can do? No. So here I'm just playing with some samples. I'm not really doing anything that I'm trying to impress anybody with, but what I like about this whole situation, how they have the workflow set up, is that this is incredibly inspiring to just be able to turn the machine on, start putting stuff into it and playing around. If I want to chop a sample, do I have the option to chop a sample? Yes. If I want to copy the same pad to another pad and then just mark the start and end points like it's an old machine and play the samples that way, I have that option. If I want to hook up one of my synthesizers and play a middle C note in and then create a scaled arpeggiator or something out of it, I can do all that. It requires very little thinking on my part because of the muscle memory. Does this thing also run all my live shows when I play out as a quote-unquote producer? Yeah, it's rock solid. It's an incredibly inspiring machine. I've just sat down on nights when I haven't felt like very inspired by anything, and I'll just hook a reloop record player up to this, and I'll just start taking pieces of old Disney records or whatever, like break records, drum library, and I'll just put them in there. And it doesn't matter if I even use that sample in a little project or whatever. It's just I'm collecting them. I might find something that sounds cool, and then I'm going to be able to put them together in some way that I'm really going to like. I think another big part of the upgrades with this version of the machine is that you have the option to resample a sequence. And for people that are just getting into it and didn't use like the SP-404 Mark 1, so to speak, you have no idea how invaluable that is. Like, I used to have to do it with like, I have a SP-555, and if I made a beat on the 404, I would have to run that in and use the 555 to capture those sequences. Now, I will also say that this machine is incredibly easy to travel with. I put mine in a Harbor Freight Pelican case, which has been amazing for it. Pair it with an iPad and you're good to go to make stuff in a hotel room. And 100% honesty, I bought an MPC Live to do that exact thing because I was doing a lot of traveling at the time. And I don't even travel with it anymore. Between this and Koala, I'm pretty much all set in that respect. Which brings me to another point. It's really, really cool. And again, I don't use it because I use Koala like once in a while. But the fact that they collaborated with Koala, or the makers of Koala, Elf Audio, to add control support from the SP-404, and they worked with Serato to add controller mappings for Serato Studio, it just kind of proves that Roland is really about the culture they've built with this machine. Another thing I'll add on that respect is when you look at different companies, like In Music is a private conglomerate with tons of investors, and I'm sure that Roland is the same thing, but Roland owns Roland. In Music owns Akai. See what I'm saying? So I feel like Roland gives a little bit more of a shit about the culture that their instruments have created. I would love to see them build like a bigger version of this, or redo like the MV series to, go head to head with Akai, because if we had more competition in these bigger spaces, everybody wins. Innovation happens and everybody wins. Adding on to that point, just to do a little bit more versus, every company advertises, so when they reach out to people like influencers, they give them products, have them do a little talk about it. I didn't feel as assaulted when this came out as I did in the last couple months with the MPC sample. Like, everybody had one and they were throwing it in your face, and I already knew I was going to get one because like I collect these things. But the point I'm trying to make is, I've seen a couple of those influencers, which I'll not name. I don't watch influencers, especially music ones on YouTube. I would rather sit there and watch 100 subscriber channels with just beats on them, because multiple Akai shills have come back and said, like the sample really isn't as great as I thought it was after a month. And it's like, okay, dude, collect your money. But I did not have that experience when the SP-404 Mark II was coming out. Everybody was hyped about it. They took a good thing that they built and they expanded, and they listened to the community, and they basically built what I think is the perfect version of the original idea. All that being said, I think it's an awesome machine. If you can find one used, if you can afford one new, it hits a lot of angles that a sampler needs to nowadays. It's incredibly useful. It can be an effects box. But yeah, I would definitely say this is probably king of the sub $500 samplers, in my opinion. Feel free to leave your opinion in the comments. I actually like these conversations that get kicked up. A lot of you guys are really cool. I like responding to all these things. I try to respond as fast as possible. That being said, thanks for all the follows and the subscribes and keeping up with the channel. I'm trying to push more and more content out there, and I'm trying to create a little bit more of a community. We have a Discord. I've mentioned that before. We have a website. My email is on the website. You can shoot me questions. We sell sample packs. We curate records on Discogs. All of them have dope samples on them. I try to tag what kind of samples are on each record, so it's a little bit more curated. If you do a little perusing on the main site, you'll also notice that we operate as a record label and we're releasing beats and music, so hit us up about that too. Thanks for everything. Hit us with a subscribe if you're not subscribed. We like to make chill content. No one here is an influencer. No one here has any kind of monetary hooks in them from any company, so we try to give super honest conversations about real world use of machines that cost a lot of money and old machines that everybody lusts after. We're trying to get some more stuff in as well and do a little bit more in the repair sphere. So if you have like an MPC 1000 or a sample track or something like that, maybe we could help out in that way. All right. Peace.